to another video and welcome to Sammy G's World of Cinema. Today on the channel, guys, is going to be part 2 of my October horror watches video. So this is part 2 of my October horror watches, all the horror movies I have watched in the month of October. And I've got to say, guys, I have had a brilliant time watching a lot of horror movies in the month of October. I think in the first part of this, I did talk about 15 or 16 movies, and I've got 20 here. So there are some of these movies, guys, I'm going to try not to spend ages or too long to talk about here. But yep, there are some great first-time watches here, and a lot of these are re-watches as well. So I'm going to crack right on with it. Grab yourself a cuppa, guys, because it is going to be a bit of a lengthy video. If I can get this video into an hour stretch, brilliant. That's good enough for me. But yeah, we'll see how we go with this one. But yeah, 20 movies to talk about here, so I'd imagine it's going to be clocking in an hour. We'll see how we go with this one. But anyways, the first one to talk about here in this video is The Curse of Frankenstein. Now, I wanted to mix things up a bit and, watch some Hammer horror films for the first time, and there's going to be other movies I'll explain a bit later in the video I wanted to include in my horror schedule as well, just to mix things up a bit and just, kind of dedicate that time to this genre within the month of October. The Curse of Frankenstein, the Blu-ray. I've got to give a massive thank you, by the way, to Joff for kindly sending me the Blu-ray of this. Thank you so much, Joff. I really do appreciate that. Because, yeah, The Curse of Frankenstein was a very entertaining time, guys. I must admit, I didn't absolutely love it, as I think a lot of other people did personally. But I did really enjoy this film. I thought it was a good kind of a really great British sort of Hammer horror take on this subgenre. I thought again Peter Cushing was really awesome in there as the main leading character, and Christopher Lee, the look of Frankenstein, was really good in this one as well. I just, again, liked the whole autumnal setting to this one as well, if you like. Kind of the weather really was the right fitting choice to capture that sort of moodiness of this movie that it was going for. And yeah, again, the whole setup and the that arose in this film was really good from a writing point of view. So yeah, there was good performances. That ending was kind of ended on a little bit of a cunning climax, if you like. So yeah, The Curse of Frankenstein was pretty enjoyable. I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10 there. Then another film that was kindly sent to me, and this was by Tim. Tim's Film Waffle. I will put a link to Joff and Tim's channels in the description box down below. Both great guys in the film community that are really into all things horror. And Tim very kindly sent me the Blu-ray of Creepshow 2. And yeah, I've got to say, guys, for myself personally, I did much prefer the original in that respect. I think the original I personally did had a better time with. I did prefer, I think it was the stories that was foretold in that first film, but this was still really enjoyable all the same, kind of focusing on 3 stories here. There's one there's one by the lakeside. There is another story there that's kind of focused on this department where hardware shop. My favorite story in this though was kind of the third story with the lady where she's driving home and then this guy is constantly going against her way. I thought that was probably my favorite part of the story, and yeah, that was decent. And then it's kind of set into the woods woods as well for part of it. So yeah, that was probably my favourite story in there, but the other two stories I did enjoy. And yeah, good kind of like animation sketches to this one as well. So yeah, Creepshow 2, guys, I personally, yep, I had a good time with this one. I think Creepshow 3 is one I've been told to avoid like the plague. I've heard the third one isn't a very particularly enjoyable ride of a film by any stretch, but Creepshow 2 was a solid sequel to the original there. Creepshow 2, I'm going to give a 7 out of 10 there as well. Then this film I won't talk about for too long, guys, because I have done a more in-depth review of this in my Unwatched Shelf series. I think this was like episode 4 where I picked this film out of the bag, and that is The Devil Rides Out. The Devil Rides Out, I'm gonna be honest, guys, I was a little bit disappointed with this film. Not to say it's a bad movie, it absolutely isn't. It's well made, it's, you know, kind of got the tropes and the aspects of what you are looking for in a Hammer horror film, but the story itself, in my opinion, was just on a little bit of the generic side of the spectrum there. I think this kind of theme with the satanic cult has just been done a bit better, in my opinion. I think, you know, films like The Wicker Man and other films are kind of that similar forte, that similar bulk. I think it's just been handled a little bit better there. But this film it's okay, guys, just okay for me. Like, Christopher Lee, like The Curse of Frankenstein, the best part of this film. The whole hypnotized and whole like kind of sort of telepathic sort of like kind of aspects of this film was again really an interesting part of the story, you know, where the car is just following this car, where this you know, like this kind of like this character's sort of being kind of summoned with this sort of evil presence of the story was kind of an interesting part of this. But yeah, the ending was all right. The ending was decent, but yeah, there was just a lot of talkative scenes that kind of, yeah, I'm all for dialogue-driven movies, guys, but this was just a bit too dialogue-driven at times, where it kind of took away the main sort of, you know, like horror theme that this movie was going for, in terms of like the whole like sort of the main premise, if that makes sense. But yeah, not a bad movie, guys. I'm gonna still give The Devil Rides Out a 6 out of 10 there. Then I had a rewatch of a film that doesn't need any introduction from me. We all know and love the film. Hailed as the greatest horror film ever made. Whilst it's not that for me personally, I can totally see why people do put that in that high regard. And this is a film where the first time I watched it, I was a little bit underwhelmed by it. Went back to it, I really liked it, and then watched it again. And you know what, guys? I can say I actually love this film now, and that is the original The Exorcist. So kind of the founding father of that exorcism sort of subgenre. And it is brilliant. It is a brilliant movie, guys. I'm not gonna deny it. You know, like, it's what you want in both a horror movie, but like an exorcism-esque movie as well. You know, like, this film kind of does tick off them boxes. Linda Blair and, yeah, Ellen Bernstein, you know, like, just work really well together. There's just other great, like, there's great supporting performances from both the main priests there, Father McCarris and Father Damien, I think it is. Apologies, guys, if I got both them names wrong, but yeah, they are brilliant together in this. I do like also a bit of an underrated character to the story, a co-associate to one of the main characters, but he's kind of like offering to kind of go on a cinema trip and chat about life and that, but he's kind of an underrated character in the film as well, in my opinion. But yeah, though, again, this is a film that does like some of the best kind of captures some of the best build up and set up for what this film is going for. Once Regan, messes with that Ouija board, there is no going back for this character, and you feel, you really feel for her, but then, it kind of makes for a great sort of threat to this story and how this is all going to unfold and unravel. And you've got to look at the great performances by the cast in here, and just, again, that brooding music as well, the whole experimental theme of this as well. It really oozes through the atmosphere. So, yeah, this is a fantastic film, guys. Really good, and a film that actually gets better and better on each viewing there. So yeah, The Exorcist, I'm going to give a 9 out of 10. It is fantastic and one of the greatest horror films ever. Yep, I would definitely go with that. It's bloody ace indeed. Then I had a watch along of a film that I absolutely love, and I watched this with Ollie. This was a first time watch for Ollie, and I've seen this film countless times, and yep, just a film that ticks off the boxes of what you want in a, like a great sort of vampire flick that kind of, meets sort of the 80s, which is ironic because obviously this film came out in 1985 there, and that is the original Fright Night. Yep, this film just continues to impress me on every single viewing. I just absolutely love and adore this film, guys. The whole like kind of suspicion of these neighbours that are vampires that move into this neighbourhood, and it's all down to Charlie Brewster to kind of be onto this case despite that no one else believes him. It's Chris Sarandon and that other guy who are a great sort of duo there. They play a great sort of threat to the story. But I absolutely love Roddy McDowall as the main host and sort of like vampire hunter of the show. I think it's Peter is it Peter Vincent? I think it is. But yep, just a wonderful film, guys. I just absolutely love this. It really just puts you back into that time period with the 80s, with the whole nightclub setting, and the score as well that just elevates that as well. You've got other great characters in there with Evil Ed and Amy as well. It's just a fantastic film, guys. And yeah, and I've got to say as well, the sequel is actually pretty good, and it looks like, and apparently the sequel might be getting the Blu-ray treatment in due course as well. So that'll be great to see that sequel get some love as well, because that sequel's quite underrated, I've got to say. So Fright Night, I'm gonna give an 8.5 out of 10 there. Psycho Killer, catch me singing, ba 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 ba, better run, 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 run away. Oh, 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 ay, 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 ay. Psycho Killer, catch me singing, ba 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 ba, better run, 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 run away. 'Cause it's Norman Bates. And Norman Bates, if he was the panel, it would be Norman D. Bates. Now, again, guys, like The Exorcist, this is a film that has got better for me on subsequent viewings. I fucking love this film, guys. Controversially, I do prefer Psycho 2, whilst I do think this is the better made film as well. I think Psycho 2, I think I just preferred the story side of the second film, if you like, but this is still not taken away from the original, guys. This is how obviously it all started, you know, spawned into sequels, and the Bates Motel TV series, I've heard that is fucking amazing, that TV show, guys. I do need to get onto that at some point. But yep, this is just really great, guys, and you know, just like a founding father of that slasher subgenre. My very good friend Ryan at Let's Get Kicking Movies, Ryan, made a very good point with that. Actually, this was like an early example of a slasher film, and yep, Rye, you are definitely right with that one. It's just really great when, you know, it's kind of a film that deals with that whole fear and paranoia, and it like is like you follow obviously Janet Leigh's character as Marion Crane, where one day she's obviously got this sum of money and she doesn't know what to do with this sum of money, and then she kind of drives away from this like this town, and then she kind of like she's thinking, is people actually watching me? Is there people that are kind of keeping, like, is there people watching me like a hawk? This is all just like kind of frazzled into a mind to the point where it's becoming a little bit blown out of proportion. But yep, again, that whole car journey at the start and that score by Bernard Herrmann, it just really delivers on that sort of that, you know, that real sort of drastic ride, which as the film progresses becomes even more drastic once Norman Bates, you see him come onto screen and his presence is a little bit on the psychotic side, hence the title. But just an absolutely wonderful film, guys. It just, again, gets better on subsequent viewings. A film of two halves where you focus on Marion Crane, and then the second half you're kind of focusing on the whole aftermath of what's happened, which is a very iconic part of the movie. Just a wonderful, wonderful film, guys. Psycho, I'm going to give a 9 out of 10. Definitely in my top 3 Hitchcock films. I absolutely love this. It probably is my third or second favourite Alfred Hitchcock films. I'm a little bit indecisive with this, Rear Window, and North by Northwest, actually, which is one of the best first-time watches of the year, that film is. So then, guys, I went back into Friday the 13th, Jason mode again, and I watched part 4, the final chapter. A lot of people do say this is their favourite of the Friday the 13th film series, and I'm not going to argue with that, of course, guys, because this was a really entertaining film. I think for myself personally, I did prefer part 3. That might be a bit of an unpopular opinion, but part 4 was still really enjoyable, guys. You get an early appearance from Corey Feldman in there. Him and his mother, I just thought was a really cool, like, mother and son relationship to the story. But again, when we go back to Camp Crystal Lake, and then there's like this house party that's kind of very much involved in this, I thought was really interesting. Again, interesting like part 3. Whilst I think in part 3 I did prefer the choice of set of characters, I did like the set of characters in this film as well. The main lass in there was really good as like kind of a main protagonist, if you like. But yeah, really had an entertaining time with this one. And again, a bit like, again, from like part 3 and onwards, you see Jason Voorhees just evolve as a character into why he's one of the most iconic, like, horror villains in the world of film there. So yeah, good entry, this one, part 4. Really enjoyed this one. And again, that whole backstory with the campfire at the start of the film was really interesting, and it takes recognition of its first 3 films there. So yeah, I think they thought this was going to be the final one, but thankfully not, guys, because I'll explain a bit why when we get onto that other Friday film later in the video. But yeah, part 4 was still a good film, guys, and yeah, some brutal ass kills in there as well. Yeah, and like, I think there was one by the shed and then the one in this backyard and something. Yeah, really entertaining film. I'm gonna give that one a 7 out of 10. Sadly, guys, I didn't get round to checking out the rewatching the original Halloween, but thankfully did get to rewatch one of my favorite horror films. I think I did put this in my top 15 horror films when I did that video last year, and that is Halloween Season of the Witch. My goodness, guys, this film is fucking awesome. I absolutely love this film. I've only seen the first 3 Halloween films, again, around October next year. Like Friday the 13th, the Halloween film series is a film series I would like to explore more into, even though I've heard the sequels are not a patch on the first 3 films. I still like to continue on with that, so I think that's something I'm going to do for next October there. Good idea, that, and gives me something to look forward to now, I guess. But Halloween Season of Witch, great movie, guys. I know this film did get a lot of shit when it came out. I think mainly due to the fact that Michael Myers didn't return in this film, and it had nothing to do with Michael Myers, so everyone went on the back foot with this film at the time. But now time, I think, has been kinder to this film than opposed to upon its release, and I think a lot of people have sort of took this as its own film. You know, it's still very much with the Halloween season, despite no Michael Myers, and I think that's probably the best way to go about this film as well. Like, don't get us wrong, guys, I can see why this film doesn't work for everyone as well. You know, like, it isn't like a perfect movie. I totally get that, but it's one I just think that has a really great sort of theme of the Halloween season. The whole countdown with the, that creepy advert with the masks and this like Shamrock Factory, and the whole mystery feel of the movie just really captures that, especially within the Halloween season, which is kind of very fitting for that. But also, I think the villain in there who runs the factory is such an underrated villain to the story. The creativity side with the whole masks and what these masks are capable of is a really great threat to the story as well. You've got a similar aesthetic there with John Carpenter's The Fog, where something does drastic happen in this hospital. I do love the chemistry between Tom Atkins and that main girl, where, again, a close one to her makes a departure. A really fantastic film, guys. Yeah, and my goodness, that ending as well is very claustrophobic. It is such a drastic way to end that movie, and it kind of leaves it on a hanging thread there by the skin of the teeth. It is just really awesome writing there. The score as well that kind of kickstarts this film is just glorious. Just a really great film, guys, that gets better and better with each viewing. I might be a little bit kind on my score here, guys, but I just absolutely adore this film. Halloween Season of the Witch, I'm going to give an 8.5 out of 10. And for next October, I do want to finally retire that DVD I've got and get the Scream Factory 4K edition. And I've heard the transfer in that is amazing. So then, guys, I had a rewatch of Scream 2. Yeah, Scream 3, I didn't actually get round to checking out. However, guys, Scream 7 is, I think, coming out. Is it next year sometime? So I'm still nonetheless going to still carry on with the Scream film series in the build-up to Scream 7. I'm also still going to carry on with the Friday the 13th film series. As I say, guys, horror is something you can watch all year round, but my personal preference is I like to mostly watch horror in the month of October, but there is going to be horror movies here and there. No doubt in my mind, I still want to check out, regardless of not in the horror season as such in the month of October. But yeah, horror is something, of course, guys, you can watch all year round. But I've always kind of just been mainly used to watching horror in October. But the Scream film series, I do want to kind of delve more into before the new one comes out. And also the Friday the 13th film series, I'm going to be continuing on this month as well. Scream 2, a very good sequel, guys, to the original. Of course, you've got that iconic opening scene with set at the cinema, opening night of the movie that's kind of a parody of a movie, which is the first Scream film. And that is an amazing, opening sequence. Good choice of new characters. You know, that guy who very much out of the blue just stands on that table and starts to sing is a little bit of a cringe part of the movie. I don't know why that really needed to be there, but it is a thing and it's there. But he's a good addition to the story all the same. I think he's kind of got, he's very close with Sydney in this film. Again, Sydney, does just as good enough job as she did in the original, if not slightly better. And Gail Weathers as the news reporter. Dewey's awesome in this film as well. And then you've got, and actually, guys, David Warner, possibly an underrated part of the film. I just absolutely love this guy. I would love to see more films with David Warner in, because yeah, I think he's really a really great support in addition to this as well. And that whole setup with the stage production as well, he's kind of like that stage play director, if you like, in this film. And that reveal towards the end, I didn't see coming from a mile off. And again, it just takes kind of recognition of its first film, but recognition of, a similar take on another horror movie as well. So, yep, really enjoyable sequel, guys. I really do like this one. Again, also you've got that main girl who's kind of in that house, and when she gets those anonymous calls, again, very much taking recognition of the first film as well. So yeah, Scream 2, I'm gonna give a 7.5 out of 10 there. Holy shit, I finally watched this at long last. The original Terrifier finally watched this, and I'm so glad now, guys. I can say I've seen this at long last. I know this film is very much a beloved modern day slasher movie, and you know, it gets a lot of love in the film community. This film does, and its sequels, one of which I did check out as well, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. But Terrifier, yeah, decent, guys. I've got to be honest, I wasn't on the love camp with this movie, if I'm being honest, but I did think it was a decent first entry into this Terrifier Art the Clown universe. My goodness, guys, if this was to come out in the late 70s, early 80s, it would be straight off the bats like part of the whole video nasty category, because there are just some gruesome kills that are just ramped up to 11 here, just taken up to third gear, and it doesn't hold back with its brutality, its violence. It is just a real bloodbath. The opening credits, and then you see him just kind of like, he's just like, again, you know, like he's setting the template for what he's capable of and what he's about to do, you know, like as the movie goes on. Again, it kind of, you know, it's sort of a good like kind of character development part of it at the start of it. That TV interview as well. I'm gonna be honest, guys, some of the main characters were a little bit wooden, you know, not very interesting, but I think it is what Art the Clown is what kind of kept this film going and kept this film together. But yeah, that diner scene, man, is absolute shock horror value right there. And my goodness, that scene in the warehouse as well, where one character is taken victim. It's a brutal part of the movie. And yeah, Art the Clown, man, with like kind of is it David Howard Thornton, like with no dialogue, for him to play off this sort of mean-spirited antagonist. He does it super damn well. Absolute hats off to this guy. But yeah, just a decent, like, you know, modern day take on a slasher movie with very much like a new slasher villain that's very much kind of rivaling off with the likes of Jason's and Freddy's and, you know, like Michael's as well. This is kind of like sort of like a newcomer to that kind of the bandwagon of like those slasher villains there. So yeah, a decent film, guys. The original Terrifier, and my goodness, that ending as well, that scene by the garage. There's just some absolute hardcore brutal scenes in there. 6.5 out of 10 there. The Star and Shadow Cinema to go and see The Innocents. I do remember Elliot Cohen spoke really highly of this film, and it's a film that's not all as accessible on like physical media. I think the Blu-ray is really hard to come by nowadays, so I kind of wanted to support this film at the Star and Shadow Cinema, and this was really interesting actually. Deborah Kerr, like, wow, gives off a stellar leading performance as like this nanny who goes to, I think it's called Bly Manor, I think it is, because I think they did do a spin-off TV series of this on Netflix. And yeah, the film has a real chilling presence about it and very atmospheric. It's kind of got a similar sort of resemblance to another film I'm going to talk about, but also The Others with Nicole Kidman that came out in 2001. Deborah Kerr, like, she's got like these like sort of suspicions that there is something not right with the children in this house, whilst I think their parents like go away in that. There is also this other like house nanny in there as well. She's looking after this sort of like these parents like children while and stuff, and but she can kind of sense things and kind of vision that yeah, they're kind of plain Chinese whispers. And it's that thing of is she becoming paranoid? Is this actually becoming a thing where she's kind of, you know, like sensing that they've got sort of like these abilities that is kind of got a real brooding presence and that, where they can kind of have control of what's happening in the house? Is this got a, you know, some sort of like ghostly presence about it? And this is a back and forth thing that kind of just, you know, it's a very in and out sort of, you know, like running theme that happens throughout this film. And yeah, there are some quite like sort of dark and unsettling moments in the movie where at night time she's awoken, and if something's come to the window, tapping on the window, did something kind of shift and move around in like this bedroom? It's like things like that is a bit of a like running theme throughout this film. And yeah, I must admit, guys, that ending, I'm not a big fan of the ending for kind of that reason at the ending, but this is still a very thought-provoking film. It's very interesting. It's kind of original with kind of its premise, and again, where she's kind of visualizing like these like this character where that character's actually not. Is that character there? Is it all just in her head? It's you know, quite a psychological sort of horror film, and this is kind of like an early example of psychological horror like Psycho from 1960 there. But yeah, very good film, guys, really well acted. Again, a film that has this whole sort of mystery feel about it that, you know, kind of it kind of, you see that do unfold to one extent, but it's kind of also left to your imagination there as well on that other side of the fence there. So yeah, The Innocents, I'm going to give an 8 out of 10 there. The Gorgon, don't have loads to say on this movie, to be honest, guys. I thought this was quite enjoyable, though I probably did slightly prefer this one to The Devil Rides Out, and majority of the movie, there's kind of just these theories, there's like this news press and stuff, and there's also there's kind of like a police investigation side, which I thought was carried off really well, led off by, I think it was Patrick Troughton actually, as this constable character. Great side character, great side sort of like addition to the story as well. But yep, like decent film. Christopher Lee, who comes later into the movie to kind of solve this case, this disappearance, like this Gorgon as well. I found an interesting part of the film. Peter Cushing was probably my favourite part of the film as well. So yeah, don't have loads to say on this one, guys. It's decent. That ending is very striking as well, and you know, seeing what this Gorgon is capable of there as well. I did like the setting with the whole castle and that big house as well. Trope of like a Hammer horror film where you've got a setting with a big castle, a big house, a mansion, you name it. The Gorgon, I'm going to give a 6.5 out of 10 there. Terrifier 2, did I prefer this to the original? Possibly, actually. I think I might be with most people on this one in saying that I did prefer Terrifier 2 than I did with the original, but the original was still decent for what it was. But Terrifier 2, it just ramps up the gore fest and the bloodbath what the first film had to offer. This just ramps it up to third gear, to, you know, like up to 11, and it just, you know, like it's got sort of like blood and gore plastered to it, you know, like let's see if we can make the most bloodiest and goriest slasher film out there. And this film very much is, it runs with it, and it's very much in the running for taking that mantle there. But yeah, Art the Clown just doesn't hold back. He's very unapologetic with what he gets up to there, going on this like sort of this brutal murderous spree. And my goodness, guys, this film is fucking awesome as well to watch. I must admit, the main mother was a little bit on the annoying side, and I didn't really care for her son as well. The other main girl, though, I've got to say she was probably a decent character to the film, and obviously her going to this like costume party as well, and just hanging out with her friends, so kind of a similar bulk to the first film, if you like. It has those characters where they do research about Art the Clown and know what he's capable of, and when they think he's gonna strike next, sort of thing. So yeah, I kind of liked how this film did, you know, like take recognition of that as well and stuff. So yeah, Terrifier 2, and my goodness, guys, wow, that ending is absolutely mental with what goes on. It is immense. And also you've got a bit like Harley Quinn with the Joker, you've got like kind of a supporting character there with Art the Clown as well, and they kind of work as their dynamic duo in this film as well. So yeah, Terrifier 2, I'm gonna give a 6.5 out of 10. Did this film need to be 2 hours and 15 minutes? Probably not, but it's still, yeah, a decent entry all the same there. Phantasm. Now, I've heard couple of the sequels to this are really entertaining, actually. I might need to get onto a couple of the sequels to Phantasm possibly at some point. The original Phantasm, guys, I've got to say, is so underrated. I know this film does get a little bit of a mixed reception, but I think it is finding its feet as a bit of a cult gem there. And the tall man like antagonist is a, yeah, really cool, like sort of you know, like threat to the story. But yeah, I think the main guy and his brother again, like, are just working together to try and, you know, like, and the other, is it the other guy who's the musician, Jerry? I think that's his name. Is it Jerry? I think it's Jerry. Really cool character though, by the way. He's probably my favourite character in this. And they're trying to kind of suss out, like, why is these sort of, you know, like, drastic things that is coming out of nowhere, that's very much interlinked with this whole the tall man scenario. This fortune teller that very much can sense these sort of these kind of demonic kind of things that is happening as well afoot here. I think it's that main fortune teller, and like I think it might be her daughter near to the start, and you do see that kind of, you know, like play a bit of a bigger part in later on into the movie, and that score, guys, is absolutely awesome. Like, where, you know, that guy is just running along, and then you've got that real sort of daunting score that really just amplifies itself down to a T there. I really like the scenes that it's set in, that kind of that in that building, you know, where it's kind of with those cabinet files, and also you've got that you know, that bowl that's just very much it's that device as well that's very much kind of you know, sort of a great setup for what's to come in store surrounding the tall man as well. So yeah, decent film, guys. Some good, like, kind of practical work in this one as well. Fantastic. I'm going to give a 6.5 out of 10 there. Then I had a rewatch of the original Poltergeist. Again, guys, like many of these horror movies, whilst I really do enjoy its first film, I am just yet to get onto its sequel and possibly a couple of the other sequels as well. Although I've heard the second, like, Poltergeist film is meant to be, like, pretty good, actually. I think there's even been some people that have actually put this above the original, so that's kind of got me the more intrigued to check out Poltergeist 2 in due course. But yeah, the original Poltergeist, again, yeah, one of Tobe Hooper's best films, and obviously Steven Spielberg had a big part to play in this as well. But yeah, just a really great kind of, like, ghostly, paranormal, sort of mesmerizing kind of film, and it kind of does what it would do in kind of a similar sort of avenue to a Steven Spielberg film, because he very much had a big part to play with this. But Tobe Hooper does a really good job at this as well. And yeah, decent score from Jerry Goldsmith, like a really good, like, kind of family dynamic to this one as well, if you like. Obviously the whole, like, disappearance of Caroline, and, like, where is she gone into this sort of, like, this alternative kind of, like, universe that they're kind of unaware of, and you've got this kind of ghost watch team that's kind of on this family side to help them and get their daughter back, and this guy like his sister. So yeah, and then I've got to say, the side story with the main father in there, where he's looking to, like, possibly move into this new house, and he's got this suspicion that it might be not too far away from this, like, cemetery, and kind of what could be what does lie ahead for, like, him and his family when they move to this new house. So that's an interesting side story there. The whole kind of, like, the estate agent as well, and it's him and the main father in there. That's probably yeah, like, one of my favourite scenes of this film as well. But yeah, and that main lady who is part of that sort of, like, that ghost watch team as well, like, she's a really good supporting character to the story. Yeah, and but yeah, the main family in this is just really likable. And yeah, the ending as well, guys, it very much kind of, even though I haven't seen the second Poltergeist, it does kind of set the template possibly for what's to come in its sequel there. Really good film, guys. I really enjoy this one, and again, the whole sort of, like, these the visions and stuff. And there's one actual quite cunning scene as well that happens with this guy and him looking at himself in the mirror. It was like, wow, holy shit, I actually forgot how kind of brooding that is as part of the film. Poltergeist, I'm going to give an 8 out of 10 there, and I really need to get onto the second movie, because I've heard that is, like, possibly just as good as the original, but I've heard from some people it's better than the original, apparently. So looking forward to getting to that one in due course. The Blair Witch Project. I went to the Star and Shadow Cinema to go and see this, like, on Wednesday evening. This was, like, a real deal breaker at the time, with this being, like, a founding father of that found footage subgenre, and there wasn't, like, as much access to, like, kind of finding out more information about this through the internet at the time in the late 90s. This film does have its detractors, and I totally get that. It's a film that might have not aged all that well, but treating it as its own, like, found footage film It's really good, you know, in my opinion. I loved this one. These three filmmakers in 1994, they basically want to find out more about this sort of, this Blair Witch sort of myth and what this Blair Witch is about. And they go to these woods, then they get lost in these woods. They've lost the map. And they kind of hear like stir of echoes through the night. There's these symbols of the Blair Witch into the woods, which was kind of the most sort of claustrophobic sort of scene in the movie, where it's all quiet and you can only just see those Blair Witch symbols. And yeah, when they're just running along the forest, and just with this being like a found footage film as well, and that ending is very much a bit of a striking ending as well. And it's kind of like, you know, with kind of not as much internet access at that time in the late 90s, what did behold from that ending, it's quite mesmerising to say the least. So the Blair Witch Project, absolutely fantastic film. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10 there. Back into Friday the 13th mode, and I watched part 5. And I tell you what, guys, I had a cracking time with this film. I know Jordan at Movie Worm really likes this one as well, and I'm with you on this one, Jordan, as well. I had a cracking time with this film. Controversially, possibly preferred it to part 2. I didn't mind part 2, but I had a lot more enjoyment with part 5. You're focusing on this main like this character, I think he's called Tommy, I think it is, who goes to like this hospital, and you kind of focus about him, but you focus on like this like family as well. There's like the guy and the girl, and there's that kid as well, and they're like kind of by this, I think it's like a caravan. It's really interesting. I kind of liked the main guy who's like this rocker, or he's got like this sort of like rocker outfit and that. He was a cool character, but yeah, this is a really enjoyable, fun ride of the film actually. And again, in the second half of the film, Jason really comes to town with the kills and that. And yeah, there's one quite brutal kill by this car as well. And yeah, like the setting with the barn towards the end, it really built for some good tension as well. That main kid in it, yeah, there were times with some of the things he comes out with, he had me chuckling with just some of the lines of dialogue there. It was just, yeah, a really fun film, guys. Part 5, I'm going to give a 7 out of 10. Now we've got my second favourite Friday film after the original, and that is Jason Lives, which, you know, like kind of is intertwined nicely, you know, set, of course, straight after part 5, and you're still following about the character, I think Tommy, who was in part 5. I could be getting that guy's name wrong there, guys, apologies. You do focus on his character again, and then yeah, Jason Lives. This was fucking awesome, guys. I can agree with everyone who said they loved this one, because yeah, I loved it too. Again, just the look of Jason in there, the way Jason comes back to life, and you see him, he's kind of transformed into like this new incarnation. I just found that really fascinating. 80s score to this one. You know, the music again, I think there was songs featured from Alice Cooper, was really good. There was one again quite unexpected scene in like this camper van as well. And oh yeah, and again the setting of forgot to mention part 5, because I think Corey Feldman was in part 5, but there was obviously Camp Crystal Lake, and you kind of focus, I think it's like a scout camp, I think, and that was an interesting sort of backstory with this main couple in there as well, that are obviously trying to make sure that Jason is not lurking around from each corner. There was a really intense final showdown with the boats in there as well. Like that boat scene and that music just really amplifies that. But oh man, this is wicked. Jordan at Movie Squirm did a cracking review of this as well. He's been working his way through the Friday films on his horror channel. And Jordan, mate, you're doing an absolutely smashing job there. Keep up the good work there, buddy. And yeah, really enjoyed this one. Also, I did really like the main detective guy in there as well. He was a good supporting character to the story. And then you had that prison setting as well. That was interesting stuff. So yeah, Jason Lives, I'm going to give an 8 out of 10, guys. I absolutely loved this one. Halloween, I rewatched the original Haunting, The Haunting of Hill House, and I've got to say, guys, like a couple of these other films, like the original Exorcist and the other one I mentioned there, this film also gets better on subsequent viewings. The main lady in there, I think she's called Eleanor, where she kind of drives away from her home one day to kind of just escape this whole madness that's just happened. And then she decides to stay at Hill House. And then unexpectedly, she's kind of having these suspicions of like these ghosts, this ghostly sort of presence, this paranormal sort of presence, this like kind of like supernatural presence in this house, this big house where there's like this main lady who lives there, and that professor, I think it's Professor Archaeologist, but just a really entertaining, really engaging sort of like early example of kind of like the paranormal, supernatural sort of subgenre there. This was kind of a bit of an early example of that, from like that came out in 1963. But I just think it is a really good film on the whole. Really good, like, kind of narration, sort of like from Eleanor in there. And she's kind of having, you know, you kind of sort of seen through her eyes of like what she's kind of visualizing and what's her suspicions around this house from each corner, and you know, like each room she goes in, those sound effects and stuff of kind of like sort of, you know, like anything that's kind of supernatural, it really kind of makes it for a more chilling experience, you know, surrounding this main character and this lady there. And yeah, and she's kind of doing this mind reading as well. It's just a really interesting film, guys, and this was probably my best viewing of this one. This is kind of where I think I liked this film the most, was on this third viewing, and that ending very much kind of leaves itself on like a hanging thread there. So the original Haunting of Hill House, I'm going to give a 7.5 out of 10. And I think Robert Wise just did a great job with the direction with this one as well. And the final one, for this video, my Halloween viewing. I've watched this, I think, the 4th Halloween, 31st of October in a row now. And it is my favourite horror film of all time, The Shining. Yeah, just an absolutely magnificent piece of horror here that still stands the test of time. And I just can't see there now being another horror film to come out in the future that will top this, because this is just at another level, guys. In the year 2018, and I've just instantly clicked with this film. I fell in love with this film. Jack Torrance is just a very unhinged sort of protagonist or antagonist. Get a bit of an understanding of his backstory when he was a teacher. You do get a bit more in-depth with that in the book, which the book by Stephen King, by the way, guys, is an absolutely fantastic read, by the way, but not taken away from what Stanley Kubrick accomplished here, because this is still a work of genius, through like the vision and just everything about it, with the layout, with the Overlook Hotel, the whole kind of mystery surrounding room 237, you know, like the iconic scenes with the twins on the corridor. Danny is kind of been overtaken in one scene, and then, you know, with the red rum, and yeah, and then obviously when he's talking to like Mr. Halloran about his like kind of imaginary monster called Tony. It is just an absolutely phenomenal movie, guys. And I'm gonna be honest, Shelley Duvall as Wendy and Danny in there are probably my favourite characters in the movie, but Jack Torrance is still a great leading character to this sort of this claustrophobic, atmospheric, sort of wintry tale, if you like. And yeah, it just ticks off all the boxes out there possible in order to excel and succeed in being a fantastic horror film. I can only give props to the wonderful direction from Stanley Kubrick. And if it wasn't for Stephen King, we would have never had this movie, because it is adapted from a wonderful book there, and a lot more in-depth, a different ending to how the film ended, but still treating it as a kind of a adaptation of that book. This is just one of the greatest films ever made, guys. That score in the opening scene by the hillside as well, with the car swaying its way around the hill, it's very brooding, and it really oozes through the atmosphere as well, and it just sets up the film really, really well. I could praise this film till the cows come home, but I think I'll leave it there and say, yeah, this is my favourite ever horror film, and it won't be the last time I'll talk about this on the channel. I might even do a dedicated review to this one next Halloween. So The Shining, 10 out of 10, my favourite ever horror film there. So guys, that's it. That's all the horror movies I have watched in the month of October there. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm really enjoying this new format in regards to the monthly watches series for the channel there. Splitting this into 2 parts has worked out really well, and doing a devoted video to all my non-horror watches in the month of October, and I'm looking forward to continuing this on with all the movies I've watched in the month of November, but I'm going to kind of split that into 2 parts as well. So guys, yep, I've had a great horror season this year in regards to movie watching, and I hope everybody else has as well enjoyed their movie watching and horror like marathon in the month of October. And yep, I'm looking forward to watching more movies, first time watches or revisits in the month of November, and I'll be back for more content soon there, and I hope everyone is doing wonderfully well there as well. So thanks for watching, cheers for stopping by, and until next time, I'll see you for the next video. Bye bye, take care guys.